What's going on, YouTube? Today I have a great Skyrim role-playing build to showcase for you, the Dwemer build. Yes, you heard me right. You can get close to the spitting image of the mythic and lost dwarves of Tamriel. So if you like unique characters and builds for Skyrim, hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notifications button. Let's get to it. So for vanilla, what race do we choose to match the dwarven look? I would say Altmer. I believe the Dwemer left Somerset Isle and the Aldmer directly. They were not a Chimer house. Dwarves settled throughout northern Tamriel from Stros Mackay, Skyrim, Solstheim, and Vardenfell. Their language shows little similarity to the Dunmer or Aldmer language, yet basic words like mer persist in dwemeri, and they use Aldmeri in official or foreign correspondences. I could not substantiate it, but I'd prefer that the Dwemer split from the old Elnathe as the greatest manipulators of the Earthbones during the War of Manifest Metaphors when Mundus cataclysmically formed. Some may prefer to model their Dwemer character using a Dunmer due to the intertwined history. I just think that the Dwemer were not affected by Azura's curse, so it breaks immersion. I use the concept art of Dumak and Kagrenak that Michael Kirkbride produced as a physical basis for the Dwemer and Altmer. They are the closest playable race to fit it. The Aldmeri culture's dispassion towards existence actually matches what the Dwemer may take a step further, namely zero-summing part or whole of the dream. Aldmer believe they are gods, and so do the Dwemer, just in different ways. By contrast, the Dunmer are articulately pro-Lorcan via Boethia and passionately idolatrous of their god tutors. It's worth noting the cultural background of the Dwemer because as a whole, the Dwemer people are the most contemptuous towards the mores that bind men in Mer: mercy, empathy, humility towards cosmic principles, rights. To do these things is to indulge the illusion of the immaterial. In other words, if the Dwemer needed to make a tonal amphitheater made from Falmor bones to amplify their presence in the Aurbis, they'd merely see it as rearranging matter in an endeavor to completely elucidate Aurbis and go beyond being itself. Remember that in the Elder Scrolls, those who die are guaranteed to be recycled as new thoughts within the dreamer. What comprises a soul does not perish, though identity is irreconcilably different. If you zero-sum in the walking ways, you no longer exist, though. Some think that Dagoth-Ur had the power to destroy the dreamer as a Sharmat. In essence, the Dwemer denied participation in the charade of Mundus and saw being itself a puzzle to be sorted. Anything could be a tool, and what we see as Falmer souls going to the dream sleeve, they see as radio frequencies to store data in Aetherius. They precede the Thalmor in that they struck a font of divine power and dared to sacrifice their own existence to become a new god. So in essence, our Dwemer roleplay will be amoral, but not particularly given towards moral conflagration. It's peak Anuvanasu, people. Our playthrough will strive not to use magic, but will not avoid it entirely. Although magic is interwoven to some extent with Dwemer technology, I believe the technology was not centered directly on transforming and repurposing raw magicka from Aetherius. By contrast, you can see that Talvani mages, Sigics, Bretons, Nordic clevermen, Direni, Iliads, and Orthodox Altmer, they all integrate their technology with magicka processes stemming from Magnus and the Magna Gi. For example, teleporters, elevators, manifonts, Varla stones, Welkin stones, and automatic doors that might be moved by alteration magic. These exemplify elven technology. Dwemer technology, as well as Sothasil's clockwork, incorporates magicka but has a stronger naturalistic basis, relying on resources or physics coming from Mundus. Thus, the Ethereum Forge and its use of magma, steam-powered automata instead of the arcane, and Daedric atronachs, or the undead. You have Byzantine optical assemblies like that of Mizult that could project the location of Labyrinthian. Whereas we know that Sothasil's factotum was a transhuman metamorphosis of mortals into chattel servitors, and that fabricants are biomechanical constructs like Fallout 4 synths, we don't know what actuates dwarven animunculi. Could they have created microchips and computers that Tamrielic scholars did not discern? Or have they sensors for which stimuli responses are handled by a central mainframe? Anuazon web services? I like to say maybe soul gems, but the Dwemer would not stoop to a solution that the Altmer could figure out, and you can't soul trap them in-game. In any case, we will use magic more than the 4th era Gigabrains and the 9 holds, but less than a Telvanni neckbeard that microwaves his Kwama Hot Pocket with Magicka and teleports it up his Mushroom Tower penthouse. So what do you do starting out? You leave Helgen, perhaps set up a fortify restoration loop to save time, and level up until you can buy or loot dwarven armor. A proper dwarf should be able to smith the plate, so if you max out smithing, you can improve your armor. At a certain point, you will want to use a quest perk, smithing, and heavy armor perks to max out heavy armor and hit the armor cap. You may also want to at least maximize your magical resistance. You can power level your character to hit high health compared to enemies that eventually will level off via alchemy or alteration. You could also simply give yourself a ring with 5,000 health on it. It really depends on if you wish to play on legendary. Damage boosts and health or defense improvements can defeat the point of legendary anyway. For this playthrough, I'm not focused on proving my character's skill or endurance to deal with legendary in a hard-earned legitimate MLG way. I mainly want to fulfill the character's roleplay qualities. As you would expect, we're going to quest to reclaim dwarven artifacts. Volendrung, Spellbreaker, and more significantly the Ethereal Crown. Provided you can fortify your destruction or carry many soul gems, Volendrung is going to pair very well with the Visage of Mehrunes. The Visage gives you the Breath of Nichwak ability, which lets you shoot steam out of your helmet for stamina cost. Depending on how fair and square you aim to advance throughout the game, Spellbreaker will help immensely for sword and shield defensive players, and can help you charge against warlocks when using Block Runner. Either way, it's entirely within character to scoff at a Daedra and just regard it as a business transaction. The Ethereal Crown is notorious for letting you cast Ritual Stone whenever you like. For my roleplay, I assume that my Dwemer will kill warlocks in battle and use their magically attuned bodies to channel Magicka from Aetherius. I wonder how Falanu Halalu had fared since Oblivion. She would probably be an overeager partner in crime. When you look at what happened with the erstwhile snow elf Urane, the Betrayed, it's exactly like a dwarf to roam the land with a massive Manamarco Dagothur-style army of flesh and bone solar panels. Reflecting on the folly of Kagranak's experience and learning nothing from it, my dwarven character has nevertheless opted for a sustainable, green energy solution certified by the Ideal Masters of Fair Trade. Think of these undead as like unto the Reaper's shock troops in Mass Effect, or the aforementioned Fabricants, retooled by Dwemer Tech sorcery to wreck and mine crypto. And we've been out of crypto since Volen fell. Well, it just so happens that this whole undead Hogwarts brigade doubles as a mobile anti-air, anti-tank missile battery that'll barrage a cocky Khajiit thief with constant fireballs, ice spears, and thunderbolts. As long as you have a pile of corpses, the unlimited use makes the Ethereal Crown completely broken. As soon as your army falls, you can simply raise them again, and make the newly fallen double your numbers. The catch? You have to micromanage the roving horde and make sure they don't fall behind. You have to run through caves and cast the Ritual Stone a few times, then rush out to make sure you keep all the undead. Otherwise, they despawn when you change zones. A possible workaround of this is to use the permanent bodies and bring them to a central location, equipping them with staves. Keep in mind the NPCs may have a low level, so they may die easily. I'm not sure if NPCs use up staves, but I believe they will last if the NPC is good at destruction. Also, certain areas like Sovngarde would require you to give them up. Even with permanent corpses, you can still accidentally leave them behind while traveling. The Ritual Stone is practical for temporary use, but it's a nuisance to re-equip the crown and recast it every 3 minutes. There are other uses for it, like improving your XP gain or toggling the 100% spell absorb for atronach use. The function provided by the Ethereal Shield, for example, exists elsewhere, like the Mora's Grasp ability, and become ethereal. Ariel's Shield may be better for the Bass launching, or you can use Spellbreaker for the Dwemer aesthetic. As for the staff, Dragonborn has a ruined Kagramez, which gives you a Dwarven Spear follower. Our character will master one-handed, two-handed, and archery. We will become a vampire after siding with the dawnguard, then level restoration to get necromage and become a fast archer. Even with Zephyr, the knocking time is quick, but the overall fire rate isn't much better due to the draw time required for distance. However, the dual flurry is effective with daggers because it's amplified by necromage. We can combine this with the speed with Mehrunes Razor to guaranteed kills on 1,000 health enemies in Legendary. Only Karstag and Marak are immune. For non-enchanted weapons, you can go wild with Amulet of Talos fortifying for 0 shout cooldown and using Elemental Fury. Although Dovazul and shouting are dragon or Nordic traditions, a dwarf is interested in tonal manipulation, which that is. If you weren't dragonborn, we would have to get First Era dwarves working day and night to reverse engineer Kind's gift to Atmorans and make their own dialects. For companions, we can choose Arania Yeneth from the Azura quest for her magical ability. Then we use a glitch to dismiss and rehire Arania and have Serana tag along. The same can occur with Cicero and the 2 Dark Brotherhood initiates. You can have a nice retinue right there plus your thralls, even without the Ritual Stone Army. You may wish to use Yamaras from the Malakath quest, who has 1,000 health and a full armor set of Orcish. Orchandur from the Periite quest can shoot vomit, phase in and out to dodge attacks, and works well with the staff. One issue with the Dark Brotherhood people is that they can regard thrall area of effect attacks as you hitting them, which may make them turn hostile and leave, requiring you to pay a fine. These are entitled 4th Era Dark Brotherhood who wouldn't even get skinned at Apple Watch for another man's crime like my boy Lucian. They think they're badass Sithis worshippers excited to kill and hit that void, when in reality they are snowflakes that can't put themselves up by the bootstraps, shrugging off a fireball salvo. You can justify with Dwemer immorality the decision to join the Dark Brotherhood and the Dawnguard. For the Dark Brotherhood, it's basically covertly destabilizing the Empire to allow for more influence with it. Perhaps that makes no sense to you, but my character would side with the Imperials solely to gain goodwill with them and find out about recovering Numidium. He has no love for the Empire, but he sees a modicum of use for it as a bulwark that preserves Lorkhan's laboratory, the contemplation of Anu that is Mundus against the Thalmor. He would do the Dragonborn questline to rediscover the knowledge of the Dwemer through Hermias Mora's Apocrypha, but ultimately dissociate from the realm after torpedoing Mora with facts and logic, correctly deducing which data of the Dwemer are true versus false. Subsequently, the most inventive of the falsehoods could furnish inspiration for future Dwemer creations. Doubtless, the College of Winterhold fits the appetite of an Arbic metagamer. The goal of this Dwemer is to achieve biotransference of the souls of the Dwemer into mortal bodies, or otherwise ascertain their whereabouts and reform them. Each action contributes to this. Whether in fact he is a Dwemer inexplicably wrought into being, or just Sheogorath touched Altmer putting Kalshama to shame, his assertion of the Dwemer identity makes him a Dwemer and supersedes even the Dragonborn identity. I hope this build gives insight into the Dwemer as they lived. They are perhaps subject to mythic retelling and propaganda by extant groups, but at their worst they are in good company with Ysgramor's companions, the planters of House Dress, and the magnanimous Aldmer pedigree from Umaril to Narafen. Hopefully, creative abuse of game mechanics and a rich backstory will vivify your next run. Until next time.
quest pool. Let's look up here.